This is the Well Within podcast for women who are tired of managing, striving and second guessing and are ready to reclaim their power. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Ellie. We're a mother-daughter helping women reconnect to their innate power, even when life is chaotic, challenging and uncertain.
This isn't another self-improvement podcast. It requires readiness and willingness to go to the edge of something different and new, and to notice what's hiding in plain sight.
This space invites you to return to who you were before the world taught you who to be.
And reconnect to your well within.
Because when women reclaim their power, anything becomes possible.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Well Within podcast. We are joined by the very beautiful Brenna Duncan today, whose vibe and energy we just fell in love with on her soulful photo shoot that she did for us for our website. And oh my goodness, yeah, what a day that was. It was so beautiful, and we were so honoured to have met you that day, and felt so connected to you. And today we're going to be talking about career changing and moving away from the conventional, the matrix, into something that you love and you desire, and just talk about where that has come from and where you're going and everything. So Bren, I will let you briefly introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, so I am Brenna Duncan, and I am a brand photographer, but also a breathwork coach and a coach as well. So got quite a lot of things going on. Yeah, I specialize in soulful shoots, which is, like you said, how we met. And working with heart-led businesses, soul-led businesses, to try and kind of capture their authenticity and capture people's personalities basically on camera, which it seems to work really well, the way that I use my coaching and get to know people and their business beforehand, so that I can kind of, on the day of the shoot, they feel really comfortable and everything kind of flows and it's easy. That's my photography, but I also teach breathwork. So I have another business called Arise Breathwork, where I teach a conscious connected breathwork technique, which is all about it's all about deep healing and about helping people really connect to their true selves as well. So there is kind of a common thread between the two.
Thank you. Yeah, and obviously we know that that's not where you started your career. So we know that you originally did a degree in architecture and then moved into marketing. I think you did marketing for about 8 years or so. And just want to sort of understand, at what point did you realize that sort of conventional 9-to-5 career was no longer what you wanted? And what sort of happened for you at that time?
Yeah, I did a lot of kind of doing what I thought I should do, I went to university, I did an architecture degree, didn't really want to do architecture, but didn't know what else to do, was kind of quite influenced by my parents. And I ended up in marketing, and I kept kind of moving jobs within marketing because I was like, oh, I don't really like this type of marketing, but maybe I like this kind of marketing. And I kept moving. And then I was like, oh my God, I just don't like marketing. I think for me, I was early 30s, and I was just sitting at my desk, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this forever. I can't sit at a desk 9 to 5 every day for the rest of my life. It was a really interesting time because I had kind of a really nice flat. I had a partner, I had this well-paid job, and it just felt very stuck and very unhappy, I guess. I was like, is this it? Is this life? Is this what life is about? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. So I was desperate to leave my job, and I didn't know how. So I actually worked with a life coach who was in training to kind of help me take those little baby steps to make some decisions of what I was going to do. Because if you look at like, oh my God, I want to quit my job and do something else, but I don't know what that is, thinking about how to get there is just way too overwhelming that most people stay stuck. So
Exactly.
yeah, so for me, I worked with a coach and she helped me break it down. She'd be like, "Okay, so what if you rented out your flat?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that I could do that." And so sort of through working with her over I think probably a few months, I decided that I was going to quit my 9 to 5 in marketing. And I decided that I would go traveling and I'd rent out my flat and I'd just like go and see what happened. And so that started this whole, yeah, catalyst of I went away for 2 months to a bit of a cliche, but I went to India to, find myself, as people say. And I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it kind of blew my mind because I was like, oh my God, there's actually a different way to be. Like, I had never understood or heard of the concept of like, we are not our thoughts. So it kind of blew my mind and it set me off on this trajectory of, um, I then I came back to London briefly and I was like, no, can't be in London. I'd come out of a relationship and I needed to kind of keep moving. So I ended up going back to India. I did a yoga teacher training. I did a 10-day Vipassana meditation, which is silent meditation. I ended up on an island in Croatia for 3 months, which was
Wow.
yeah, I ended up volunteering on this well-being island called Obanyan. I think it was a little bit ahead of its time because, yeah, it was this beautiful tiny island in Croatia and there was kind of lots of well-being stuff happening on there, but then also lots of music and, lots of bands who are really big today were on there when they were quite small. And I met loads of people within the well-being space, including Michelle, who I live with now. So there's a lot of magic happened on this island of me meeting lots of incredible people who are still in my life today. And I think that was the real catalyst for kind of um, changing my career because I'd always loved photography as a child. I used to take photos of everything. I used to love going to Boots and getting my film developed. That was like a highlight for me. Um, I kind of was told, you can't make a career out of photography. You won't make any money out of that.
Mm,
And I believed it, and I thought, oh, I can't be a photographer. I'm going to have to do,
yeah.
marketing. And so to then kind of, it took a while. I got back to London and I was doing £50 jobs here and there and, events and building it up very, very slowly. Over the course of time, it has become a career and I am making money out of it. So yeah.
Love that. Yeah, I resonate so much with what you're saying, and I feel like I've kind of been in that sort of period myself. Obviously, as we're sort of moving away from HR, and the more now I've started to realize, yeah, it's definitely not what I want to be doing. And yeah, in my mind, I was like, well, very much like, well, I've got to make sure I've got something stable to move to. But then it's like, actually, like you say, it's like, what are those small little steps that you can take to actually maybe change the course slightly? Because I guess, yeah, in your mind, you think, no, it has to be this certain way. But yeah, until you kind of move in the direction and actually put things in place, it's hard to see what that even looks like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think a lot of people remain stuck and they can't,
Yeah.
but I think it's a big part of trusting that, what's the phrase? Leap and the net will appear. Like if you
Yeah.
take that leap, you will be held, you will be caught. And it's taken a long time to really believe that, but I do trust that things will work out how they're meant to. And,
Yeah.
we have to take some risks to get to where we want to be, I think.
Absolutely. And I think it's so easy to see how people tend to be stuck in those sort of conventional 9 to 5 jobs, especially as, I know I've got a couple of friends that are kind of feeling like that as well, but they get that promotion and then the money, and then like, oh, actually, I'll stay for another year, or okay, I've got this next thing, I'll stay for another year. And then as it goes further and further down the line, you're sort of, I think it feels almost slightly harder to then get out of it because that is the kind of reality and that's the sort of cycle or the loop that you're in. And it does feel really scary, I guess, because you've kind of built this sustainable career for yourself and you've got X amount of money, and the unknown, I guess, the fear of that unknown of what it would look like without that kind of prevents people from taking that next step.
And I think once you get to that point, fortunately, I never got to a really high paid career in marketing. So it wasn't as hard to leave. But I think people do get to a high salary, and then they've got a big house, and then maybe they have kids, and then they've got, I don't have kids, so I don't have to, it's a bit different for me. Like I can be a bit more free. But yeah, I can totally appreciate how some people can get quite stuck. But I'm just really glad. I think for me, there was no option other than to
Yeah.
leave. I did. If I couldn't stay. It was like impossible for me to stay in that position, because it just, I don't know, my whole body was just telling me, no, this is not right. You need to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really resonate with all of that as well. And like you were saying about Eckhart Tolle, we are not our thoughts. And but gosh, for many people it feels so real and so huge, and that stuckness, it's almost like paralyzing some people. They just can't move. But it's almost like the other side of that is being in that stuckness and kind of almost like withering away for, your entire life. And some people do and are still thinking, oh, if only, or, when I get there, I'll be okay. Or when but, and that's taking that leap is just what we kind of need to do really to move. And I can really feel, and I suppose that's what we kind of felt, the connection with you, is that you just kind of really know yourself. There's just something about you that is just, I don't know, it's really sparkly, and there's something that, yeah, she'll figure it out. It's okay. There's this sort of really kind of deep trust, and that's not, that can feel a bit sort of woo-ish a bit, but I mean, there's something there that that you always go back to, that's solid, that's reliable, even though, yeah, we might take a few sort of wobbles here and there and everything, which we always do, but it's almost like I can really feel that in you, that you just, yeah, you can center, you come back, and okay, what's next? But yeah, yeah. So yeah, what then led you I know you said about you loved photography and things, but so what was that sort of, okay, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going, and where was that?
Yeah, I don't think there was I didn't leave my marketing career with a specific plan. I kind of just went traveling, and I took a camera, and because I'd always loved photography, and, taking photos in India is so colorful, and, it was such an amazing place to kind of learn. And, I'm self-taught. I didn't do a photography degree or anything. One of my best friends, who's an amazing photographer, she kind of taught me a lot of what I know today. So we used to kind of, I did actually meet her in India, and she was shooting a festival there, and I went and was her assistant. So there was lots of little things that kind of happened that led me to improve my photography and get a little bit better. And then when I was on this island in Croatia, I was volunteering in the well-being, the Zen Den, and I also started taking photographs of the well-being. So it kind of built like slowly, but it wasn't necessarily a plan. I didn't know. And then the breath work, that just came completely, that I wasn't expecting that. That was kind of a personal journey of me,
Yeah.
doing breath work for my own healing, and then ended up training in it, and was like, oh, now I'm teaching breath work as well, which was a bit of a surprise. But I like having multiple threads and things that I do. Like I said, the 9 to 5 to me was quite boring. I am an Aries though, and we do get bored quite easily. So we like to do lots of different things and meet different people and keep
Yeah.
moving.
So do you think though that the architecture and interiors sort of was that a kind of, influence into photography as well?
Not as such. It's, without going into loads of stuff about how my brain works, I discovered that I don't have a visual mind's eye, which I discovered this only a couple of years ago. And it's kind of made me understand why I didn't like my architecture degree, because I could visualize. So how can you imagine buildings and creative? It's quite an interesting. Yeah, I was like, that explains why I didn't really enjoy my architecture degree and found it really challenging, because that was like a major part of that. So yeah, and that's quite interesting with the photography. And I was talking to another friend recently who's also a photographer, and he was saying he doesn't have a visual mind's eye either. And I think that can be quite interesting in doing photography, because I can't say I'm taking a picture of you two by, by a tree. I can't imagine what it will look like. We have to just try and move, and that's probably, I think, why it maybe flows more and it's a bit more intuitive, kind of
Yeah.
move and see how it looks and test and collaborate. Yeah, that's quite an interesting way that I work as well.
Yeah, so that's really interesting that you kind of obviously back then you had this sort of these challenges were kind of being thrown up to you, and I can imagine you think, well, what's wrong with me, and why am I not sort of getting this and everything, and then it's almost like you keep saying things I think are so intentional. They sort of come in and just sort of like move you. Oh, well, why not sort of try this way? And if you're listening to those nudges and things, yeah, I think having that that deeper sort of sense of who you are, and that will take you like you've just been saying, and yeah, that's really fascinating how that could have gone, and you could have almost forced yourself, or sort of been in this sort of situation, this job that was really not serving whole of you, but you kept there, but you didn't. And yeah, it's such a beautiful story to, and yeah, inspiring for the people.
And just going back to that, when you were doing your 9 to 5 and your marketing slash your architecture degree, compared to now when you're doing your breath work, your coaching, and your photography, how does that compare, like in terms of the way you show up and the way that that feels for you?
I mean, no week, no day is ever the same. So I love that I have so much more freedom. I don't have to work on a Monday if I don't want to. I might work on a weekend, but I don't have to work on a Monday, which is quite nice. Yeah, it just feels, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm running two businesses. There's a lot, and I'm constantly kind of thinking about it and having to think about marketing and social media and all of those things. It
Yeah.
can feel very overwhelming. Sometimes I think a
Mm.
lot of people say I could never be freelance. I can just go home on a Friday night and I don't have to think about work till Monday. So it's not for
Yeah.
everyone, but I think for me, in terms of my lifestyle and the fact that I love meeting new people and kind of, yeah, doing different jobs and, meeting people like you and lots of people, because I generally work with a lot of clients who are in the well-being space, or they're kind of creatives, but a lot of them are in the well-being space. So I meet, astrologers and acupuncturists and yoga teachers and tarot card readers and all sorts of people, which is just really fascinating. And I love that
Yeah.
part of my job. And also with the breath work, I do a lot of stuff. We actually have a studio in my house here, which I share with a friend who's a sound healer. And, I had a workshop last night where I had 7 people come to breathe here. And so it's just, yeah, it's just a lot of variety, which I love. So I'm really grateful for how it's worked out. And I'll probably have another career. I feel like something else might come in at some point. I don't feel like it's just this forever. So let's
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Let's see what
That's
happens.
I love
exciting.
that.
That's really fresh and exciting to be able to kind of just not have that grip on, well, anything. Let's just see what happens. And I think, yeah, it feels that you're so sort of open, and open to just movement and just seeing and having conversations with people. You just do not know what's around the corner, and having that fixed, rigid mindset will, you just miss so many opportunities, don't you? If this is how you think that this is life, the way life is, and you've just got to follow this path.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've struggled with the most, and sort of conditioning of this needing to know and needing to know what's going to happen next, and having that sort of control over that next thing. And it's definitely softened over the years, but there's still that kind of like, crunch of what's going to happen, what happens if something goes wrong or whatever, rather than, and yeah, I think I just love how, yeah, your energy and how fluid you are with that. And yeah, I feel like I need more of that in my life.
Come and do some breath work because it's really going to
Yes.
help people let go of control, because we all like to control our lives and what we like to have a sort of, a control over what's happening and what's, it's by no means am I completely flowing and free, but I do believe that if you have an open flowing breath, you have an open flowing life, because the way we breathe is the way we live. So I mean, that's a whole nother podcast episode about the breath.
Yeah, love that. So yeah, just talking a bit more about the breathwork piece. And I know when we were chatting before recording this podcast, saying that women tend to struggle quite a lot with their mind body connection. And yeah, how do you sort of help support them to reconnect in that space through the work that you do with breathwork?
I was thinking about this, and I think most people, well, not most, but I think my generation, and I don't know about you guys, but, I wasn't brought up to feel my feelings or even connect with my feelings. And when I look at my friends who have kids, the way that they parent is so different. It's like they allow their children to feel the anger and sit with the anger. I was always branded a good girl, so I never had tantrums. Apparently I just was like a bit of a people pleaser, like making sure everyone was happy. And so I think a lot of people are quite disconnected from their body. So I was actually thinking the breathwork and the photography both link with this in terms of helping people connect, because I have a lot of people who come for photo shoots who actually just feel like afterwards they're like, oh wow, I feel really good about myself. I feel like I've really connected with this, my inner self, I guess. And that's what I really believe the breath work that I teach does as well, because it kind of connects us all back to, I guess it's the well within, like you call it, like that place, that inner truth, that kind of, I believe that at the core of who we all are, we're joyful, playful, loving beings. We all are, but we've had all this conditioning and all of these things that we've been told, like you're a good girl, or boys shouldn't cry, or, all these messaging, all these things that we're told as we grow up, which can affect our breath basically. And this is a lot of what I teach, is when we are told not to show our anger or not to be sad, or we're branded a good girl, or any of these messages, it means that we start restricting the way we breathe, which then determines the way that you're living, because the breath is life. The breath is our life force energy. It's prana, it's chi. So the way that we breathe, I really believe, determines the way we're living our life. So it's a little bit like I was saying about the control. If your breath is very controlled and a bit, it's up here in your chest, you're probably more of an anxious person. You're probably a bit more trying to control things in your life rather than just going with the flow. So through connecting with your breath, I believe that you can connect more with your inner world, with who you really are, with, I for years did not think I was an anxious person. Last year, I was like, that knot you have in your stomach when you're in a relationship, because there's all sorts of things around attachment for me, but I was like, that's anxiety. That is not your intuition. I thought it was my intuition. So for me, that's been a big piece in connecting more to the sensations in my body. So now I can be like, oh, I've got this weird feeling in my tummy. Okay, I'm anxious. I can preempt it before I feel the anxiety. So breathwork is amazing at helping people just connect to the sensations in your body, you know?
So simple, simple. I
Yeah,
mean, you can do it
yeah.
anywhere. I'm hearing it's like a bridge. It bridges that sort of outer and inner, and yeah, how it can just bring you that sort of calm and yeah, the sort of clarity. Because when you're kind of, like you say, taking such short breaths, or when you're feeling anxious, there's just not enough oxygen even going to the
Mm.
brain, and it's just so confusing. And yeah, I can really appreciate how that really works, because I've tried myself, before coming on podcasts or anything. It's just amazing how it just settles. You can feel your whole body just sort of relaxing. You can feel, I don't know, just the blood flowing better, and yeah, just more clear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that, everyone can use their breath to change how they feel. but it's, it's like we all take over 20,000 breaths a day and most of us don't even notice. And there's a really interesting thing called email apnea, where when people are checking their emails, they're holding their breath, because when we
Mm.
hold our breath, it's because we don't want to feel our feelings. So generally people are anxious and they're like checking their emails, like, and not breathing. So that's a
Yeah.
really good thing to just tune into, noticing when you're holding your breath and then just taking a lovely deep breath into your belly. Because a lot of people are breathing up here in the chest and they're more anxious. And yeah, it's really fascinating.
And I guess like you're not taught how to breathe, are you? You just breathe. And then I guess as you yeah, if you are sort of anxious or you're trying to control situations or whatever, that then kind of becomes how you naturally tend to breathe. But it's almost like the unlearning and relearning how to sort of breathe properly, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Just people need to be breathing into their belly. Most people
Mm,
aren't in their diaphragm, and our
yeah. I don't
diaphragm
think
is,
I do that enough.
yeah, it's really, if you're breathing into your chest the majority of the time, you are basically telling your body that you're ready to run. It's put you're in your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, which is what we need when we're running for a bus or we need to run away from a tiger, whatever, we need that. But if you are constantly breathing in your chest, you are basically sending a signal to your body that you are not safe. So you're in this constant level of stress. The best thing that people can do is just breathe into the belly, long, slow exhales. That's how that calms your nervous system. That puts you into the parasympathetic rest and
Mm.
digest state. So yeah, simple in through the nose, long exhales. That's really helpful to calm.
I've just done a couple now and I already feel more relaxed.
Apparently it works.
Amazing. Well, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that wonderful conversation. I'm sure we could speak all day about breathing. And yeah, I mean, obviously in our work we talk about the well within, this sort of space, this deeper knowing, this sort of grounded space of, this always reliable. He's always going, he's always here. It's not, but we forget. It's almost like obscured by everything else that's sort of going on, who we think we should be. And it is full of infinite potential. It's just who we really are beyond all the noise. When you're kind of off track, I know obviously we've talked about the breath, but if you're feeling kind of out of alignment with your true self, what helps you come back into your well within and drop into that other than breath?
Yeah, other than the breath. For me, I mean, it's just simple. It's getting outside and actually walking, because I mean, there's a lot of evidence now about just getting outside for 10 minutes of walking is really good for our mental health. Yeah, nature, obviously. And in London, I'm always desperate to get out of London. And luckily I live near Walthamstow Marshes, which is quite wild. So I can get there quite easily on my bike but yeah, I think walking, to be honest. I hiked part of the Camino de Santiago, one of the pilgrimages in Spain, in September. And I'd had a really quite stressful period before I went, and I was feeling a bit like, "Oh, I'm gonna quit everything." Like I was a bit kind of, "Oh, I really needed a break." And I went hiking for 8 days on my own, and I didn't think about work once. I didn't think about this thing that had happened that had stressed me out. I didn't think about it for 7 days. Not that the hike wasn't it was very adventurous. There were some highs and there were some lows, so it was challenging. But I think for me, I was in such a present place for those 8 days, really present. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a really beautiful experience. And it reminded me how much I like walking. And I actually started doing breath work and walking workshops now, where you
I
breathe,
love that.
go for a walk, because it's a really lovely way to process what might have come up in the session, or and connection with other human beings, like for me as well. That's why I live with a friend. I lived on my own for years, and I actually don't like living on my own. I like living in community with people, because we need people. And so I think to connect with that is, yeah, walking and community, I guess, community connection with other people. I'd say they are my main things.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, I really want to do that part of that walk as well. I've been thinking about it for so long
Mm,
to do it. Yeah, it
yeah.
sounded like a perfect reset, like a almost like sort of taking the body out of normal kind of the normal sort of flow of life and into something different. And yeah, it's amazing. But it's amazing how I don't know, we stop ourselves even kind of doing that and, "Oh, no, well, you can't go and do something like that." That's but, yeah,
And the other
fascinating.
thing I'd say is playing, like play. We don't
Mm,
play enough as adults, you know? I love playing with my friends' kids. We've got cats here, like play, like that's
yeah,
really important. And that really helps you get out of, put on your favorite song and have a dance and around.
yeah,
Like that's a really good way of shifting your energy if you're feeling stuck or in your head. Like I'm a big believer in shaking, animals do that in the
yeah,
wild. They shake off
yeah,
their energy. So
yeah,
shaking, dancing, playing, community and nature, I'd say they're my main ways of
yeah.
reconnecting to my my well within.
Love it. A lovely, lovely conversation.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for agreeing to come on. I know you said when we were talking about it that you'd had it in your mind to go on a podcast, so you created this for yourself.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely, lovely what the universe does, doesn't
Yeah.
it? um, but yes, thank you so much for coming on. If our listeners want to know a little bit more about you or your soulful shoots or your breath work, where is the best place to send them?
Yeah, so you can look on brennaduncan.co.uk is my website, and arisebreathwork.com. I'm also on Instagram, so you can find me there. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll pop that in the show notes. Thank you so much for such a lovely conversation.